365. This is episode 3. And today we have Dev Ahuja with us. He is the founder of RTW Plus, which we're going to find out everything that's all about, what that's all about. But first, welcome, Dev. Thank you so much for being the third guest in this mammoth mission, which we were just talking about off air. But welcome. Can you just tell us what is RTW Plus and who are you in terms of that?
Okay, hi. Yes, thanks for having me, first of all. And it's great to start the new year with lots of podcasts and talking to lots of people. I think what you're doing is amazing, but I'm sure we can talk about that in a minute. I'm Davdeep Ahuja. I am a physio by background, so I did my doctorate in physiotherapy. So I'm Dr. Devdeep Ahuja officially. So I worked as a physio for a little bit, and then I worked as a case manager and worked in the NHS, worked in the private sector. And then I decided it was time for us to do our own gig. So I, along with my co-founder, Deborah Edwards, we founded RTW Plus, which stands for Return to Work Plus. What we do is we help people who have had an injury or who've been through an illness, whether it is physical illness, whether it is mental health issues and such. We help them with their recovery and we help them get back to work. So that's our key goal is return to work. So we support people through their recovery and get them back into work.
That sounds like an incredibly rewarding business for you as like the founder and in it every day.
It is, yes. I mean, it's amazing how we see stories every day of people who've had injuries and suddenly their whole life changes completely, and then how they can go through the phases to be able to then feel, oh, yes, I'm now going to be able to go back to work, and all the positive benefits of the work that come along with it in terms of not just earning money, but also in terms of the social recognition and all the other social benefits as well.
Yeah, exactly. So talk me through it. How did RTW Plus start? What were the hurdles when you first started? Tell me through that.
Yeah, I mean, we've done this. I've been in this industry for about 15 years. So I've been a physio. I trained as a physio for about 15 years now. I worked in India initially as a physio. Then I came here, did my MSc here. Then I started working as a case manager, which is essentially not doing the actual hands-on physiotherapy, but it is more about organizing the treatment and everything. So I did that for a few years, and what we felt was that being in a large organization can be quite restrictive sometimes. I was working for a multinational company, and it can be quite restrictive sometimes in terms of me getting authorization from X, and they need to get authorization from the next level. And so there's so many different levels if you want to bring some change. What we wanted was to have a more slicker operation, which meant that because the process changes so quickly nowadays, there's lots of innovation going on in healthcare as well. It is important for us to be able to run with the times. So when my manager, Deborah Edwards was my manager in my previous job, and when she left the company, I decided it was time for me to go as well. So I resigned, and then we decided, okay, let's set up a company together, let's start working together again, but we'll run a more slicker operation, more innovative, where we can pick up things as we go along and mold our operations in a way that will sort of run with the times instead of having to wait months and years for things to change.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like good work. Yeah,
that was the whole idea behind RTW Plus, is to start something that will run with the times, run with research, run with the evidence base, and that's what we're trying to focus on.
Amazing. And you said a word there, innovative, which is one of my favorite words. Why is it so important in the field of work that you do to be innovative, be proactive, get those times reduced? Why is that so important?
Yeah, there are a couple of ways to look at it. One, obviously, with healthcare, it is all research driven, and things are changing so quickly with the introduction of artificial intelligence, with the introduction of virtual reality software, and all the different apps and technology. It seems to be changing at a very rapid pace. And if we are not able to keep up with that, we're going to lag behind pretty quickly. And that's why I think being innovative, looking at all the different happenings within the market is so very important. So that's one part of it. But also in terms of evidence, research evidence as well. So we are working based on the national guidelines and such, but those keep changing as well. Those keep being defined on a regular basis as well. So again, it's important for us to keep ourselves updated with what the national guidelines are, what's happening in terms of the field of research and injuries, but also in terms of mental health and such. I mean, in a way, there's been a lot of focus on mental health in 2019, which has been really good because
Yeah,
it's raised the
massively.
profile and people do understand that it's okay to talk about mental health. It's okay to seek help if they feel that they're struggling. So in a way, that has been really useful for us as well. But I think coming back to your question, that's why it's really important that we continue to innovate. We continue to look at different ways and means. But also the third point around that is budgets as well. So whether we are working in the public sector, in the NHS, the budgets are being cut all the time, but also whether we're looking at the private sector as well, so whether it is insurance work and such as well, there's a lot of constraints on the budget, which means that you got to be as cost effective as you can. You got to be able to deliver better outcomes with the same or less amount of money. So again, it's looking at how you can work in a leaner fashion, how you can not necessarily cut costs because you got to give the right intervention to the client. You still got to help that person get better and get the treatment that they need. But how can you do it in a leaner fashion so that it can reduce the cost?
Yeah, that's so important. What sort of examples have you got that you've gone into that lean aspect? Because budgets is something that is out of your control, right? If it's the NHS, if it's a private insurer, you're not really in control of the budget that is over that. So what do you do as a business to, one, make sure that you're surviving? Because if these budgets are constantly being cut, then obviously you're going to have to do contradict that in some manner, to make sure that your business is going. And we touched on it very briefly here, but you've gone from 2 people to 16 people in a year whilst budget cuts in an external fashion has been happening. So that's the story I want to get into. It's like, how have you managed to have growth and still manage the budget cutting on the external factors that you've got?
Yeah, I think it is again it's about different aspects of it. So one big cost that we had was travel, for example. So we got a project in Newcastle, we got a project in Leicester, and then we are based in Milton, and my co-founder business partner is based in London. So we were having to travel a lot to Newcastle, for example, and it's very expensive. It takes a lot of time out of your stuff as well. So one thing that we've done is that instead of traveling there on a monthly basis, we now go there on a quarterly basis, even though we're having weekly meetings now instead of having monthly meetings. So we've reduced our travel, even though we've increased our frequency of meetings by using online tools like Zoom and such. It's quite easy nowadays, and everyone's sort of moving on to that. But I think that's been really useful in terms of reducing our travel costs. Then looking at more flexible working options as well, that's been quite useful for us, in that a lot of work is now being done by telephone, and through. So for clients, when we are doing assessments, we used to travel to their house and do the assessments there, which meant that the cost to the insurers or to the was quite high. If we do that same assessment by telephone, we can reduce the cost significantly. So instead of charging maybe, I don't know, £1,000 or £1,200, we charge only £300-400, which is a significant saving for the
and
insurer.
then you're buying back time, so you can do more of those. So you're still filling in that void that you've got.
Yeah. So I mean, travel is a big waste of time, and you can't really do much when you're driving. You just got.
No.
I mean, obviously you can listen to podcasts, certainly.
You can listen to Founders365.
Yeah, certainly. I think that would be really good, and that's what I try and do is listen to podcasts when I'm driving. But again, you still can't do revenue generation when you're driving, and that's something
It's a tricky one.
Yeah. So it is about flexible working. It's also about keeping our office space lean as well. So one of the things that we were able to do is NatWest have got a really good accelerator program, which is an incubator program. So we were selected for that, and which meant that we haven't had to invest in. So even though we got a team that we are maintaining, we haven't had to invest in office space and such, which is again a significant cost saving for us. So it is looking at alternative modes of working and having a flexible structure. I think that's been really useful for us.
Amazing. And that's a, you know, I speak to a lot of people that are in things similar to NatWest's accelerator. How has it helped you as a founder, you know, having that support system in place to grow your business?
Well, I think it's amazing. Yes, so we get like monthly check-ins or monthly support sessions from the business development coaches, which is really good. I think what it's helped me in a couple of different ways. So one is obviously it's helped me be more accountable. So I know that I've set the goals for this month with my coach, and I'm going to go back and make sure that when she asks me that, have you done these things? Where are you on those things? And I make sure that I can say that I've done it. Yes, certainly. But also in terms of thinking strategically, that has as well, rather than just working in, because there is a tendency that, oh, I'll do this and I'll do that. And then when I started out, it was like, oh, I'll do this. I'll pretty much do everything on my own. I wasn't very happy with delivering tasks to other and such. But over a period of time, through that coaching, through that mentorship, I have been able to now feel more confident in my own team, being able to delegate tasks to them, and know that those will be done and we'll still get those done. But it's just setting those procedures in place that has been really useful from the mentor's perspective.
Yeah, I mean, having those sort of conversations regularly, having a coach, mentor, helps your growth. You know, it helps your accountability. Like we said before the call, you know, a little story. Dev asked me why I started Founders365, which is a very good question because it's a ridiculous goal, some might say. And one of the things I said to him is actually it's because I wanted to make myself externally accountable and have a podcast. I've been wanting to do a podcast for a while, but I never found the right setting or the right format. And then this came to me during the Christmas break, and it really aligned with what I want to do, which in 2020 is create new habits. I almost said break habits, but I suppose to create habits, you've got to break some habits as well, right? So how, in terms of your business and life, I guess, because you can't have a great business and a great life, or without a great life even, and vice versa. How in your business has accountability, and especially as you've gone from being that two-man band to now overseeing a team of 16, and that growth has happened super quick, within 12 months, like you were saying. How has that changed you as a leader in your business? That's a really interesting thing I want to find out.
Yeah, I think it has changed me a lot. As I said, when I started out, it was all about me doing the things. Oh, I'm setting this company up, so I've got to do this. So we were the ones who were writing policies. We were the ones who were writing procedures. We were the ones who were doing the actual assessments. We were the ones who were running the whole show pretty much ourselves.
Yeah.
And then over a period of time, we were trying to do marketing. We were trying to do everything ourselves. Yes. But over the period of time, we found that there is only so many constraints, but also because of the skill constraints as well. We are not, yes, we know a lot of things about our business, but we can't pretty much do everything ourselves. So we brought in the people who have those that we need for us to be able to form that team. So for example, we've got a business development manager who is doing our business development now, or we got a supplier manager who's doing our supplier management now. We got a systems administrator who is running the whole of our systems. Instead of me trying to do everything myself, I have been able to then delegate it, because when I started out, it was like, oh, I got to set up the website as well. So I learned how to do the website, and then I learned how to
jack of all, master of none.
That's it. Over a period of time, I've been able to do that. But then what I've also had to learn as I've gone across is how to manage that as well, how to ensure that things are being done while not being overbearing, but we still got to have accountability towards our team as well. So they need to be able to know what they can expect from me, and in the same fashion, I need to know what I need to be very clear in terms of my expectations from them as well. So I think it's a two-way street.
Yeah, massively. And when those thought processes started happening with you, knowing that, listen, I can't do everything myself, and your time is probably becoming really tight, you're probably becoming really time poor, and I guess at the summit stage that will probably you probably started seeing that affect the business. How did you decide in that growth stage, going from that 2 to 16, how did you decide the first people to bring on board? How do you decide those jobs that you went, I don't want to do that?
Yeah, I mean, the first person that we got on board was our systems administrator. In a way, we were really lucky because we got a big contract with one of the insurers, which meant that we were able to take on their book of business, and we were able to take on some of the team from them as well. Which meant that we had that team. We knew that team already. We knew that they are quality people. They're all case managers who do really good job. So we were able to take on that team. But also then we brought in that systems administrator who helped sort of solve our IT puzzle, so to speak.
Yeah,
because that's always a big challenge.
It almost forced you to step into that growth stage.
Yes. So that contract was like, as soon as we started it, within 2 or 3 months, that came across, and it was like you got to, because it's a multinational company and it's a big company, they have got their full due diligence processes and such, which meant that we had to step up to the plate pretty quickly, get everything sorted out, make sure that we are able to deliver on that contract as well. And that was a big step up from where we were working just as consultants, doing bits and pieces here and there.
Yeah, amazing. And what year did you found it then? So you've been in the game 15 years, but when did you start RTW?
That was in 2018. So we're going to be finishing our 2 years in March.
2 years in March. What are some of the key learnings that you've taken away from these 2 years that you had no idea about before you started? So the biggest surprises that have come up for you as a founder, as someone that's set up this business and now has 16 staff?
Well, the biggest opportunity for us, the biggest learning for me was to take the opportunities as they come. Yes, that was amazing that we got the opportunity. We were like, jump on it, let's do it. So I've always had that attitude that, yes, we can do it. Bring it on, we'll do it. Yeah, that's what we try and do. However, what we learned was that you got to do your estimations right, you got to do your budgets right and such as well. So especially when we're working with the public sector and such. Because if we do that wrong, it's going to cost. So in one of the contracts, what we did was that we were quite excited about working on that project. We gave a budget, and then we had no idea of how much of work it's going to involve. And therefore, over the period of a year and a half, we've spent a lot more time and we've invested a lot more resources in it than we've budgeted for, which meant that we probably lost money on that. Even though it's still a good project for us and it's helped us in other ways. But I suppose the learning has been that we got to make sure that we get our estimation and we get our budgets right when we're doing our initial projects. I think that's really important. And choosing the right people as well. So one of the staff members that we recruited, because of time constraints and such, was quite a quick recruitment. So it was like, let's do a quick interview and then let's get started. And that didn't turn out really well. We really struggled with them. So we had to spend a lot of time coaching them, trying to do a lot more work for them, getting other people to support them as well. It still didn't work, and then we had to let them go. That was quite a difficult task for me as someone who's never really fired anyone. It was like, how am I going to have that discussion?
How did you deal with that then? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how you go about firing someone who you've never had to fire before.
Yeah, it was quite challenging, but I think in the end I managed it quite well. So when we so obviously we were struggling with that person for a while. So I think it was about 4 or 5 months that we continued to coach her, have sessions with her on an almost daily basis. We were following up with her, set her tasks that you got to do these things.
So and taking up a lot of your time then.
Lot of time, yes, lot of time, and that's been one of the issues, and that's why it's like I remember someone said a quote that you should be slow to hire and quick to fire. but we took a long time to
You
fire
went
her.
you did it the other way round.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
But we've learned from that. Obviously, we have learned from that now. But in terms of firing her, so there was quite a lot of discussion with HR to find out what the policies are in terms of, can we just let her go? Can we? What do we do? How do we do it? So we had to create evidence that we have supported her. In terms of training, we've given her the right support, we've given her the right mentorship, we've given her the right tools to do things and such. And we put a performance management plan in place. Still, we could see that she hasn't really progressed. And then I had to go down to the office to her and have a meeting with her. And again, she realized that as well, that she wasn't really performing. She realized that, she understood that as
So it
well.
wasn't a good fit for either of you then, by the sounds of it.
No. But it was a difficult conversation. I was hoping that it'll be a quick one. We'll just go there and say, look, it's not working for you, it's not working for me, and let's just part ways. But it didn't happen that way. When I went there, she was nice. She was quite nice as a person. She was quite nice. So we got along and we started talking, and then we did a bit of a review of the situation. So we spent nearly an hour and a half with her in that exit interview instead of just that 5-10 minutes that I thought that it'll be.
I think that shows, the values that you have as a business owner and how you want to actually see people succeed. If you followed the advice of hire slowly, fire quickly, then you wouldn't have been able to have those opportunities to coach them and allow them to give them that space to grow. I think there's a lot of people out there now, when they're talking about businesses, they want to have fast growth businesses. They want to do what you've done. They want to start with 2 people, have a team of 16, but within 1 year. But what they don't see are these conversations where actually sometimes that team member doesn't work out, or that client doesn't work out. You were saying about how one of the things you've learned is systemizing and making sure that you're getting the right contracts in place, and that gives you the power now to be able to say no to clients, which I think is super powerful for any founder or any business owner to have that ability and that knowledge to say no to a client. I don't know about you, but I remember when I first started out, I just wanted to say yes to everyone, right? Any work that was given to me, I was like, yeah, I can do that. And actually, it was only when I started saying to myself and having that conversation with going, you know what, who do you want to work with as a business? Who do I want to work with in the next 3 to 5 years, for example? Where do I want to be there? And the only way I'm going to get there is by saying no to people and clients. So when you're with your growth, the speed of your growth, what can you anticipate that's going to happen in the next year? So let's, we're right at the beginning of 2020. March, you say March is your 2-year anniversary?
March is, yes, certainly. Yeah.
March is the 2-year anniversary. So what's coming up for you in 2020? What can I expect to see all over Facebook, all over social media, of what RTW Plus are doing in 2020?
More of the same. We're really, really excited about 2020. I think it's going to be an amazing year for us. We are scaling much higher. We're going to go much further. We are going to do a lot more different things in terms of not just working with the insurers and solicitors. We're working with the corporates directly as well, which is, again, a great opportunity for us. We are also going into an alternative division, which is around individual placement in sport, which is supporting people with mental health back into work. So again, it is all going to be related to return to work, certainly. Yeah. We're going to focus on that, but we're going to do it into alternative markets. But I think the key thing for us, what I've learned so far, is that we got to keep our strategy and our mission and vision in face all the time. We got to remember that all the time. So when we are going after contracts, we now think, does it really fit into where we want to be in 5 years' time? So we got our five-year plan, so to speak. So it's not necessarily a fixed plan that we're going to do this and this and this on this and this and date, but we got an overview of where we want to be in 5 years' time. We've got an overview of where we want to be in 2 years' time, in 3 years' time, and 5 years' time. So whenever we are trying to do something new now, we like, does it fit into our plan? Is it going to help us get into that get us to that 5-year strategy. But also, one of the things, one of the books that I read was that will it make my boat go faster? So that was a really good book. So every time we do something, we ask ourselves the question: will it make my boat go faster? Will it get me to that goal?
When the answer's no, what do you do? How do you get rid of the no's?
You just stop yourself that no, we're not going to go for it. We might feel that we're losing an opportunity, but if it is not in the right direction, if it is going to take away the focus from our main goal, which is to be one of the premier case management service providers in UK, then we just go away from that.
And that's because you've actually spent the time as a founder to figure out what those goals are, right? And what those values are and what those beliefs are.
I think that's the key thing, really. So when we started out, we were doing lots of different random contracts here and there. But then what we figured out was that we were doing things which necessarily don't fit into what we are or who we are as a person, or we're working with people whose ethos we don't necessarily agree with. And therefore, having that strategy meeting, so we had a board meeting where it wasn't just us two. We brought a couple of different other people who got a lot more experience in the industry, brought them in there as well. And we had a big meeting where we decided those goals, where we thought about this. So we spent a full day trying to get that strategy right. And I think that's been really useful for us.
Yeah, it's and a lot of people, when you're 2 years in, some people say early stages, other people are going to say that you're in the flow of things now. But whatever stage you're at, if you don't allow yourself as a founder that time to step out of the business and look over the business about what's going on, what's going right, what's going wrong, all these other avenues, then what often happens, and I see it all the time in my work, because a lot of the stuff I do is, taking founders, putting them in a room with me for the day, and we figure all the strategy and goals and all that kind of stuff out. And what often is the case is that they find out that maybe 20, 30, 40% of whatever they're doing is pointless. It can completely be scrapped. And the book you just told me about, will it make my boat go faster, you said, or further?
Yeah, faster.
That's such a great analogy in general, and I'm going to have to order the book after this call, because if it's not going to make your boat go faster, what is the pro of it? What's the benefit to you of it? And often it's going to be very little, if anything, and I think as a founder, which sounds like you've really conquered, is making that step into someone that is really working in the business. The classic saying of you've got to work on the business. You've transitioned really nicely to start working on.
We're still trying to do that. I wouldn't say that I have mastered it, but yes,
it's a day by day. Take it day by day. Which is super exciting for you. One of the things I would love to know about is why is this business and why is this mission for you so important? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing what you do?
Yeah, so I trained as a clinician. So as a physiotherapist, it was always about trying to help people recover from pain, get movement, return to work, return to play. And as a physio, we don't necessarily think or talk about work enough. And that's, again, one of my pet challenges, is that more of the physios should be talking about work. They should be talking about work at every single consultation, which doesn't necessarily happen. There's a lot more focus on work now, which is great. So for me, the focus has always been to try and support people as much as we can in terms of their recovery. And that is what we're trying to do with RTW Plus as well, is keep the focus. Because look, the point is, good work is good for health, and that's a big thing nowadays, is good work is good for health. So if you are in good work, whether you have mental health issues, whether you have physical issues, whether you have any social issues, those tend to get resolved. So it's not just that when I'm fit, I will get back to work. To get fit as well, if you are in work, you will get better quicker. There is a lot of research that shows that you will get better quicker if you are in work. So that's what we try and do, is promote good work.
That's really interesting. That's a stat. I think most people, if they think the opposite, don't they? Think, oh, you know what, take time off, do what you need. But I think the really interesting aspect that you touched upon earlier in 2019 is how the mental health aspect has really been pushed, really been publicized even more so every year, which is fantastic. Can't recommend that stuff enough. In your line of work, what is the repercussions of that? So is it that you're seeing more cases related to mental health that is also related to physical health, the connection between the two?
Yeah, there is a bit of a, yes, there's a lot of positive in terms of talking about mental health. Certainly, it allows people, it takes away that stigma of mental health that if you have an issue, it's okay to talk about it. So that's a really good positive. On the other hand, obviously, we do see a bit of negative where you have people who, everyone has a bit of downtime until you are low in mood, and it's not necessarily you need treatment for that, or
it's
just
normal.
that phase, isn't it? We all feel that, and we go through that. And sometimes because of that whole focus on mental health, sometimes it can sort of get exaggerated a little bit.
Right, got you. So
so I think that's a bit of a negative around too much of focus on mental health. But having said that, I don't think that's necessarily a major factor. The key thing is that, yes, a lot more people are talking about mental health, and they're able to relate to having mental health issues, even if it is a physical injury, even if it is pain. So people with chronic pain, they can develop mental health issues. They can develop that pretty quickly. And sometimes it was like, oh, it was just pain. Why are you feeling that you were depressed and all of that and all the other elements? So, I mean, when I talk at the conferences and such, one of the analogies that I give is that when a person loses their job, they don't just lose that financial side of the things. It impacts on their family life. It impacts on their relationships. It impacts on their whole leisure and social culture as well. So I think it is important that we talk about the person as a whole and not just their injury or not just their say pain. If they've got a knee pain, it's not just about knee pain, it's about the whole impact on them as a person.
Yeah, massively. When someone loses their job, often they lose their purpose, and that effect, that, like you said, the effect that the effect it has on them and everyone around them is the thing that people don't see. And often I'm guessing that the client doesn't see a lot of the time either, because they just think that, hey, I've got a bad knee, like you said. And it's only when you, by the sounds of it, you use quite a coaching approach and you can allow them to start seeing things in a different way.
So simple things like people become a lot more snappier, so they'll just shout at kids and they'll be a lot more angry while they were never before like that. So that's a sign that it is affecting their mental health as well.
That's so true. In your line of work, what are the things that really make you smile? So you get home after a day at the office, what is the most rewarding thing about doing what you do?
The best thing, the best example that I can give you is a person, one of the case studies that we did recently. A person had mental health issues. He was suicidal, so he wanted to kill himself. He wasn't even talking to his GP, so he reported to our case manager that I'm not feeling well. I'm just going out. I've taken all my medication. I don't know where I'm going. And so he wasn't taking the calls and such as well. With that person, giving them the support, so they continue to interact with our case manager by text message. Over a period of time, we were able to bring them into the hospital, get them the support that they needed, provide them with intervention. And within 5 weeks, that person was able to go back to work. They were motivated to go back to work, and they returned to work, and they were able to then maintain that work. That's the kind of change that we can see. That person who has lost all hope, who doesn't want to do any work, who doesn't want to live anymore, and transforming them from that situation to then feeling motivated and wanting to continue to live and wanting to return to work. That's the kind of change, and that's what motivates us, that keeps us going. When you see those kind of stories, and it's not a one-off thing, that continues to happen on a regular basis in our business. That's what we do.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's like hats off to you and the work that you do. I said right at the beginning of the call, it must be so rewarding. Obviously you're going to have the down days. You're going to have the cases that may not work out as expected. But when you can see someone's life transform in front of you because of the work that your business has done. I mean, there's nothing really that can top that. That human to human interaction on that level is something that is astounding me all the time. How do you handle it outside of work? How do you handle it when you're not in the office, when you're just dev, on a weekend, on a Sunday, when you're just dev? How do you handle that?
Well, I got my family. I'm a very family oriented person, so I've got my family. I spend time with them. Do my running bits and pieces. I try to do it more regularly, but I'm not able to do that. But that's my resolution for New Year as well.
I think everyone's resolution for New Year in January is like, I've got to work out more.
But again, it is all about continuing development as well. So we continue to read. So the things that haven't gone well, we do reflect on that. So as a reflective practitioner, you tend to think about those things. You tend to read. You tend to think, oh, what could I have done differently? Maybe discuss it with your peers as well. So discuss it with other team members and such to see, look, these are the things that I tried. It didn't work. What else can I do? How can I do it better? So it is continuous learning cycle. It's not just that, oh, I know everything now that I'm doing my own business. It's I don't know everything. There's no fixed answers to these kind of situations that we come up with every day. So we just got to keep learning, keep reading, keep discussing with others as well.
Amazing. That brings me on to probably a couple of my last questions, but personal development for you, you've just said you continually read, you continue educate, but how else do you continually improve yourself so that you can be, that person that's leading the team of 16 people that is there to deal with those life transformational situations? Because emotionally and energetically, your work probably takes a lot out of you. So how do you make sure that you are, you're always developing yourself to be the best person you can be? And how do you track that?
So I mean, over a period of time, I have changed a lot. So when I started out as a physio, I was a clinician. My focus was, oh, this is my patient. I've got to improve their pain. I've got to do. So it was like a clinical mindset. And then when I started my own business, it was like developing that business mindset that I've got to grow the business. Yes, it is still about the patient. It's still about helping them. It is still about their recovery, but also now one step back, and we got to think about the business as well and how I got to grow the business. And I had to then do training around business operations, business management. So lots of different short courses and such. So I use Udemy quite a lot. So I have lots of courses on Udemy, which is an amazing resource, which is like you pay like 10 quid or whatever, and you can get an amazing course.
Ridiculous.
So that has been an excellent resource for me. I read quite a lot. I read about my physio and clinical stuff, but I also read about business stuff and leadership and management stuff as well. So again, that's been quite useful, listening to podcasts and such. I haven't listened to yours, but I will be listening now.
You have to. Now you're a guest, you have to listen. Every single day this year, you have to listen. I think that's so important as a founder, as a business owner, as a CEO, whoever you may be, that if you're not topping your personal development up consistently, that very quickly you see the negatives of not doing that. So, it's going to affect your work. It's going to affect your personal life. It's going to do that. If you've got to consistently be making sure that, it may sound selfish, but you consistently have to be making sure that you're looking after yourself. Because if you don't look after yourself, you will never have the energy to be able to look after your patients or look after your staff or grow your business. And I think that's something that gets really, really forgotten a lot. A couple of years ago, when the whole, you've got to hustle 24/7, you've got to work 24/7, otherwise you'll never make it. Personally, I found that a really dangerous time in entrepreneurship and business owners, founders, whatever you want to call them, because it puts so much pressure on the business owners to just burn themselves out. And if you're burnt out, then you can't do anything for anyone else. It's that classic saying of, you've got to fill your cup up first before filling anyone else's up. And it may sound selfish, but you've got to be selfish to be selfless.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I think you need to feel energized yourself to be able to energize your team, and that's the reason I took 2 weeks off just now over the Christmas period. I've been off since 20th of December. I'm not
Right.
working till Monday, so I return back on Monday. So I'm now ready. I feel ready to go back and
Yeah.
yes, push it again. So certainly taking that break is really important, but also in terms of knowledge, I think there's so much of information now available online, whether it is
Mm.
YouTube or podcasts and such, that you can continue to learn. You don't even necessarily have to pay a lot of money to
No.
learn as well. So you got to be careful about the sources and what you learn rather than just random stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much free stuff out there now,
Yeah.
and I do truly believe like there's every single bit of information out there is readily available to you.
Mm.
Google, YouTube, podcasts, Facebook groups, whatever it is, there's
Yeah.
always going to be someone that can help answer a question. And yes, it can be used in a bad way. You know, there's a lot of rubbish advice out there, obviously, but
Mm.
that kind of comes back to the whole, you've got to know your values, you've got to know your beliefs, you've got to know your purpose in life, to really align everything up with your mission, with your business, with your goals and your strategic decisions, and those yes, no, you know, what's going to make this boat go faster decisions,
Yeah.
which is really vital. But listen, Dev, you've been such an amazing guest. I've loved hearing your story, and I'm really looking forward
Thank you.
to keeping on track and hearing about how your year progresses, and maybe at the end of the year we can get you back on and hear how your year has gone.
Sure.
But how can people connect with you? How can people find you if they want to chat about this?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm all over. So yes, just search for my name, Devdeep Ahuja, and there are not many with that name as well, so it'll be easy to find me.
You're an easy finder. That's good. Your name's not like John Smith, which I would imagine if your name was John Smith. If any
Yeah.
John Smith's listening, I'm sorry, but you're just
Yeah,
unlucky.
someone asked me a couple of days ago. Someone told me, "Oh, you should connect with a guy called David Smith," and I was like, "Okay, that's fine." And I searched for him on Facebook, and there were like 170 David Smiths that came up onto my
Yeah,
Facebook thing. And I was like, "Which one, mate?"
just connect to them all. You'll get one of them. You'll get one of them.
Yeah.
But no, thank you so much for coming on. I've
Well,
really
pleasure.
enjoyed it. Thank you everyone for watching Founders365 live and the recordings and listening on Spotify and on iTunes and wherever you're listening from. Thank you so much. We're here every single day of 2020, and this goal is being achieved every single day when we've got fantastic guests like Dev on. Thank you, Dev. Thank you, everyone else.
Yes, thank
See
you
you
for
next
having me. Thank you.